What is up, everybody? Valentine's Day edition of the Purple and Gold Podcast, morning edition. After LSU defeats Milwaukee in the season opener yesterday at Alex Box Stadium, 15-5. A couple of notes about the atmosphere on the game. It was fantastic. The weather was great. The crowd was great. Lane Kiffin was at the game with Cookie and a suite. I think he showed up fourth or fifth inning. He finally got to see an LSU victory. All of the men's and women's games he had been attending were all losses. We did get word that spring football practice will begin on March 24th. And we also got word yesterday that LSU's safeties coach, Jake Olsen, is leaving for the Washington Commanders of the NFL. So Lane and Blake Baker will have a spot to fill on defense, and we'll cover that for you as it develops. I've got some thoughts maybe during the week about what I would do with that spot. But let's focus on the game. LSU does win 15-5. My sort of headline takeaway is welcome back Gavin Guidry. Let's kind of go through the game a little bit, and then we'll hit the high spots or whatever. Zach York homered in his first at bat. LSU was up 1-0. LSU had built a 2-0 lead, and in the fourth inning, I don't want to say the wheels came off for Case and Evans. It was an interesting inning. He hits a guy. There's a bleeder up the middle. They dumped one in the left for I think a 2-run hit. They did hit a hard base hit to right field for a hit, and he couldn't get out of it. And Milwaukee built a 4-2 lead at that point. Good job by Cooper Williams, who was the first man out of the bullpen, shut that inning down. He did give up a home run, a solo home run, which made it 5-2, but he was pretty good on the whole in his outing. And Seth Dardar came off the bench and homered in his first at bat, a 2-run shot, and it was 5-4. And it was at that point that Gavin Guidry, who had entered the game to quell the rally in the fifth, just struck out. I think he struck out the side in the sixth. I think he worked through the seventh. His breaking ball looked phenomenal. He looked excited to be out there, and he spoke about it after the game. Long process for him to get back. And then LSU took the game over in the sixth inning. They scored 2 runs to make it 6-5. In the seventh inning, they scored 4 runs. They scored 4 runs to make it 8-5, highlighted by a Kate Aaron Beatty 3-run shot. LSU would eventually walk it off in the 8th inning. Stephen Milam walked it off, and it was 15-5. So let's talk about some of the players and what really stood out. Zach York homered, had a couple of walks, was hit by a pitch, barely missed a second home run. There was high drama in the stadium at that point. Couldn't really tell if it was fair or foul. Looked like it just went foul on the replay at the last second. He played phenomenal, really. He was everything you would have wanted him to be. And look, we're not going to make any bold, sweeping overreactions after one game or one weekend. But I think in terms of, so for example, I thought Mason Braun had a tough day, right? We're not going to make any bold declarations about Mason Braun's playing time, right? LSU had 15 hits. They played error-free baseball. They got a lot of players involved. Did it take a little bit of time for them to come back, meaning a couple of innings when they were down 4-2 and 5-2? Yes, and Jay said as much. But I actually was in the stands, and I wasn't worried at all about the outcome of the game. I didn't think the outcome of the game was ever in doubt. And I don't think this performance is necessarily indicative of anything relative to negative things. So does this mean Case and Evans cannot be your Friday night guy? No. Does this mean, Mason Braun can't be your everyday left-handed DH? No. Chris Stanfield had a kind of a tough day. Does it mean he can't lead off because he led off yesterday? No. And then again, I think in terms of the positives, you look at Certainly, Seth Dardar had multiple hits, including a home run. We talked about Zach York. I told everybody in the preseason that I thought Cade Beatty would be a big part of this team. He was. You sort of won yesterday without Derek Curiel doing anything. Stephen Milam was fine. Jake Brown had a left-on-left double for an RBI. I think everything about the game itself was fine. I think it was great. And I think, you look forward to 1 o'clock today, and we will see Cooper Moore, the Kansas transfer, pitch for LSU. And interestingly enough, we did not see Gavin Theis for Milwaukee yesterday. Matthew Mueller, I believe, started for Milwaukee, a lefty. And we talked about LSU being a left-hand heavy lineup and Milwaukee possibly throwing a couple of lefties out there this weekend. I don't think it was anything health-wise with Theis or anything other than that. I think it was just a choice that was made by Milwaukee. I suspect we'll see him today. And that'll be interesting to see what, if any, changes there are, with the lineup. So speaking of the lineup, and again, I don't think the starting lineup, either on opening day or in an individual game right now, really matters. Jay has said repeatedly he may use 14 position players to win a close game. And you saw it yesterday. Braden Simpson started at second. He then exited the game. Jack Ruckert was at second when the game ended. Seth Dardar was at third defensively when the game ended, and Caraway was out. So and by the way, Jack Ruckert had a beautiful bunt for a hit on in his at bat. I think he's a guy defensively who could get in the mix late in the game at second base if LSU's got a lead and they want their best possible defensive team. So I wouldn't focus too much on the actual starting lineup. Was I a little surprised that Mason Braun was in there? Yes. Was I a little surprised that Braden Simpson was in there? Yes. I gave you my stab at an opening day lineup, and it wasn't correct, and that's okay. I mean, all of these guys played. Daniel Harden had an at-bat. John Pearson got in and got an at-bat and got a hit. So especially early on, so many of these guys are going to play, and that's what we want, right? We want to see everybody, and Jay operates. One of my favorite quotes from Jay Johnson is, "We play today like if the world was going to blow up tomorrow. We want to win the game today," right? But at the same time, he knows there's a development piece to this. He knows there's an aspect of getting people into the game and getting people into certain situations. And he also knows early on in people's career what not to do, right? It's 5-4. It's a little tense. You're not going to put in Ethan Plog, right? You're going to put in Gavin Guidry. And for both reasons, right? One, because you're trying to win the game, and two, because Gavin Guidry has done it, can do it, and did do it. So all in all, I think it was a good day. I don't have any major complaints. Again, error-free baseball is big. I thought the crowd was great. I thought the players played with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of energy. And if there was one, sort of minor speed bump, it was that fourth inning by Kason Evans. And you just wish maybe he could have gotten out of that, even despite giving up the runs, if maybe he could have finished the inning. Relative to LSU's pitching staff, don't worry about it. They only used a handful of guys, and we talked about this in the preseason. They've got arms and arms and arms to come out of the bullpen. I do think the fact that you saw Cooper Williams so early on Friday probably lends itself to Jaden Newt being the person who starts on Monday. But again, if they need Jaden Newt to win a game today or tomorrow, they'll certainly use Jaden Newt. So, all in all, a good day. We'll be back at it at 1 o'clock. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking very much forward to seeing Cooper Moore, who really was LSU's best pitcher in the preseason. He's LSU's most experienced pitcher, having made 44 appearances over his career at Kansas. You would hope he could give LSU maybe 5 innings today, and then we'll see a parade of guys probably come in behind him. It could be Santiago Garcia. Is today the day you see Grant Fontenot or Devin Sheeran? Could you see Ethan Plog, a lefty? Could you see Marcos Paz today if LSU builds a lead? All of that will be interesting to watch, and that will be the appetizer for what eventually will be the main course tonight. 7:30 Central Time, ABC. LSU and South Carolina will renew the conference's greatest rivalry since Kim Mulkey got here. No love lost here on a Valentine's Day between Kim Mulkey and Don Staley. College Game Day will be on the concourse of the PMAC, broadcasting before the game, and then a national television audience, 7:30 for LSU and South Carolina. I do think LSU finally conquers South Carolina tonight. I like the Lady Tigers tonight at the PMAC to get a big win. We'll be back tomorrow to cover all of it. LSU's men's basketball team is on the road at Tennessee. That could get ugly, but whatever it is, ugly or not, we'll be here to talk about it. We'll be here to cover it. And as always, be good to one another. And always, 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 go Tigers.